I just got excited a little bit about math. It's one of the things I like about myself. There aren't many things I like about myself, but one of the things I like about myself, maybe there's a couple or a few. One of the things I like about myself is I have a romance with math. It's not a perfect romance. I'm not a rational or reasonable person in the way I live my life. But where I have found success, why I've been able to survive this long, actually, it's not even rational. It's really God's grace because I truly am probably the world's greatest fuck up. But for this one moment, I loved a little bit of math, and actually, I wanted to talk about this object behind me because I was just sitting here thinking about it. But I was thinking about it because I was involved in math. So I started this about an hour and a half ago. This this page. I started this about an hour and a half ago, and I was just reminding myself that it is actually pretty cool because I do most things by hand because if I don't see how it works, I'm very very distraught, disturbed. If I can't account for every single thing, if I can't account for every particle, every nail, so I'm a house painter, and I've been doing it for 20 years, and I've worked with thousands of other craftspeople of different trades, and I know the good ones, I know the bad ones, and even the good ones aren't perfect, and even sometimes the bad ones do something ingenious. So everybody has a good day, everybody has a bad day, and there are different reasons for why we have good days and bad days. It's difficult to account for, yet there is, like, from the God's eye view, there is always an accounting. There's always a statistical breakdown. There's always the God Plinko game of why things shake down the way they do on any particular day, I think. But some days I'm reminded, like, for instance, tonight I had to do this equation. Uh, 23,700,403 squared. And about 11 pages ago, and maybe a couple or a few months ago, I figured out that it was easier to multiply using this method that I wouldn't say I invented, but that I innovated because it has to do with if you put numbers as a line and then you put, so if it's like 123 times 123, you'd put one line, two lines, three lines, and then you'd put one line, two lines, three lines, and then you clump the numbers and put them each which way, and then read the numbers. I figured out that was cumbersome and it was easier. I'm just using base 10 because base 10 is what I am accustomed to. But it works out pretty good. And what happens when you do this form, so if I had done the regular multiplication I was taught in school, I would have moved my hand less, maybe, but I would have moved my eyes more, and that's what tires us out. So in this version, we move our hands more, but we move our eyes less, so we get less tired. It takes more energy to think and move your eyes to follow something than it does to do something like it takes like something simple that our mind and our eyes understand that our hands can do easily that's a simpler process than something that requires our hands to move less and our eyes to move more. We think because our hands are bigger and our eyes are smaller, that if our eyes move and our hands move less, if our eyes move a lot and our hand moves less, that seems like it's more efficient, but it's not, because it stresses out the brain. We have to protect the brain. We have to protect the heart, and we have to protect the brain. Our hands are meant to work. We are workers. We think with our hands. And anything that our hands can do that our eyes and our brain doesn't have to do, that's way better. Because our hands are also not just controlled by like our cerebral cortex or whatever, but also the amphibian brain, the reptilian brain, right? Whatever that, I think, I don't know. So anyway, doing multiplication, but it's a 23 million number, and I should tell you the product. It's right here. You read it this way, and just to show you, it's not bunk. Just to show you it's true. Check your facts. Right. I have to do things by hand, but I have to check them. If I didn't have scientific calculator, I'd find other ways to check them. It would take me 3 times longer to do everything because I'd have to do it 3 times in 3 different ways to make sure that everything was matching up, to do the geometry in different ways, right? Which is kind of what I'm doing anyway, but because all this math, this is page 158, and right now I'm in the process of proving this is miraculous. I'm in the process of proving this point. I'm in the process of proving this point right here. Oh yeah, baby. I love it. Yeah, so sometimes I get inspired by math, but anyway, I just wanted to show you that I got the same number here. As I did here. And I just want you to think about, like, if you did multiplication the way you normally do it, like 23 million, or no, 23 billion, 700, no, 23,700,403 times 23,700,403. Like, if you did it the regular way, like your hand isn't moving as much, you're not creating all the grids and the lines, but like you have to like move your eyes a lot and be like this and this times this, okay, over here, and then this times this over here, and then add the thing over here and then over here. It's combobulated. Whereas all you have to do with this one is just do each step individually. Each step individually stands on its own. The problem with multiplication of large numbers, the way we're taught it in school, is that once you start the process, you can't stop. The benefit of this is you can stop anywhere at any time because every single box is an individual step. So like you don't have to keep the flow. You don't have to keep going, because as you're adding those zeros at the bottom and moving your digits over and trying to figure out which number goes where, and then you're carrying your digits and the numbers stack up and stack down, and then you're doing the adding and the subtracting, and you're putting your numbers here and carrying them and minusing them and crossing them. It's fucked up. Same with, all that shit. Whereas this just, it streamlines the process. Even though it looks like more work, it is actually less work. I've been much more productive doing it this way. I innovated it because I had to, because I was becoming so tired. I'd have to psych myself up all day to like square a number Like once you start getting into the multiple millions and having to try to square that kind of number, if you do it the way we were taught, it's very tedious. But this is easier, and it's still using base 10 for me. For me, it's easier, and for people like me, it's easier. So, no. People mostly use calculators, but there's a few of us. There's a few of us who prefer just the raw graphite or the symbolic graphite. You know. Interestingly, graphite is conductive. Like you can actually create an electrical system on paper with graphite if you know what you're doing. That's pretty interesting, I think. Like that you can actually put electricity through with a pencil on paper. That's pretty fucking amazing. That would be a very, very cool competition. Like, you have one pencil, you have one sheet of paper. What can you make that's electrical? That would be cool. But anyway, I got the right answer. And it's, yeah, 561 trillion, 709 billion, 102,362,409. An exact number. And why is that number important? It's one of three numbers I'm going to add together as a numerator over my denominator, which is 3 to the 31st power, which is a huge number. I'm not sure if I have that number recorded. It's huge. Huge. 3 to the 31st power. So that's trillion. So yeah, we'll be in the quadrillions or maybe quintillions. But anyway, those three numbers are going to add up to 3 to the 31st. And the whole thing will reduce to 1. So that's pretty awesome. So, but I started this video because I wanted to talk about this object. But I was reminded that I fall in love with math sometimes, so I thought it would be nice to talk about this little bit of math. Sometime I'd like to make a explanation video of why I think this little grid multiplication system matters. I think because there aren't many people these days who would bother to square a number that like tens of millions, a number that is tens of million large, tens of millions large number to square it by hand. Who would do that? I don't know why I do it. It's just something, it's like God said, you're gonna do this shit by fucking hand. You know? That's our whole bag. But anyway, it's an interesting, like, could that inform AI of the way that people think? Because I do think some AI, like I think, for instance, like Tesla and XAI, the way Elon Musk has approached AI is completely different than the way so many other companies have approached AI. Because, especially at like Tesla and with like both the cars and Optimus, The way that AI is taught is by sight, like seeing something inform is the is what informs the model, just like human beings. So the eyes, like in Tesla and in Optimus, the eyes and the hands are part of different functions. Whereas I think in other AI systems that are that seem to be impressive these days, but really aren't, there isn't a distinction between hands and eyes. Like eyes take in the information, hands do the information. And it seems like hands doing more and eyes doing less would take more energy than eyes doing more and hands doing less. But it's the opposite because it eats up the brain. If it eats up the brain power, it eats up the heart power. And it's a lot more easy to do repetitive, simple, step by step, block by block. It's a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to build something block by block. You don't have to think as hard. It's one of the reasons why like stone and brick buildings are better. Stone, I'll tell you what, I've met a lot of different contractors, and the people who work with stone, brick, like the masons I meet of different kinds, the earth movers who also do stonework. Because there's outside stonework, there's inside stonework, there's different kinds of masons, there's different kind of stone craftspeople. But there's some of the happiest people I've ever met. Yeah, I've met a couple who aren't. Especially, yeah, lately, recently, I've been working with this crew. It's a dad and his son. And then sometimes, like, the grandfather will show up who, like, started the business. And he'll just, like, bring his son and his grandson some, like, peach cobbler or some bacon potatoes or something, whatever. Like, he'll just show up. You know, he's older now. He could probably still pick up like 300 pounds with one hand, probably. You don't know how strong. Like, a guy who's been working with stone or like a bridge builder who's been working with forms, like concrete forms for bridge building and all that his whole life. Like, those guys, when they're 70, they're stronger than the greatest athlete when they're 20. They can just pick things up like a fucking tractor. It's crazy. Anyway, let's look at this beauty. Not that beauty. That's ugly. Yeah, let's look at this beauty. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Wait. Let's see. God. What a beauty. I think that's nice. I don't do a lot of things that are nice, but I think that's kind of nice. I wish I did more that was nice. I'm hoping I can do something nice before I die. God, I'm such a terrible person, really. I feel like if you don't fix it, you're terrible. And I've made, yeah, decisions in the past I regret.